The first book of electricity. Over hills and valleys. After electricity leaves the powerhouse and passes through the big transformer, it follows its path through transmission lines that stretch far over hills and valleys. The lines are held high off the ground on tall steel towers. They are fastened to the towers by fat rods made of porcelain or glass, rods that look something like a pile of cups and saucers squashed together. Because these rods are made of an insulator like porcelain or glass, the electricity can't leave the wire and rush into the steel tower. When electricity is starting on its long journey to your house, it may be as high as 250,000 volts. Such high voltage is very dangerous. Electricians who work on the steel towers or who have to repair high voltage transmission lines always wear rubber overalls and rubber gloves. Rubber is a good insulator. It keeps electricity from entering the electricians' bodies and injuring them. On and on, for mile after mile, the transmission lines carry the electric current. After a time, they branch out into several directions. Perhaps one branch goes off to a big factory where the electric current is used to run electricity that will run a railroad. Every time a wire branches off of the main transmission lines to carry electric current to some special place, there must also be another wire to carry the electric current back to the generator. Electric current must always be given a circuit to travel on. Finally, perhaps hundreds of miles from the powerhouse, the electric current reaches the city or village where you live. There it passes through another transformer, but this transformer lowers pressure instead of raising it. The electricity is nearing the end of its journey. It no longer has to be a high-voltage current that can travel a long distance. Instead, it must now be a low-voltage current, the kind that is safe for us to use. Many wires leave this transformer. Some go to schools, some to stores, some go down your own street. And in every case, there is a return wire that brings the current back to the transformer, again on its way back to the generator, possibly miles away. If you live in a big city, you may not be able to follow the wires as they travel toward your house. Big city wires are sometimes laid underground inside special pipes that keep them dry, but in most towns and villages, the wire travels to your house above ground just as they have crossed the country from the powerhouse. Big steel towers are no longer necessary, however. Now, tall wooden poles can do the job. They may be the same poles that carry telephone wires and that support street lights. The porcelain or glass insulators that fasten the wires to these poles are much smaller than big cup and saucer ones on the steel towers. The voltage on the wires is much lower now than it has passed through the voltage-reducing transformer. Big insulators are no longer needed. But the voltage is still too high to be used safely in a home. So the electricity goes through one more transformer before it enters your house. If there are electric poles near your home, look at them carefully. Near the top of one of them, you will see the transformer. It looks like a big metal box. Inside it are coils of wire. When the electric current leaves this last transformer, it has been reduced to 120 volts. Now it is ready to work for you. Electricity in your house. There is work for electricity to do in every home and room of your house. So, of course, there must be a network of wires all through the house. They carry the current to the places where it is needed. They carry it back again to start on its journey to the distant generator. Usually you can't see the wires. Some of them are inside the house walls. The only ones that show are the ones that run from a wall socket to a lamp or a toaster or some other electric appliance. They are connecting cords neatly wrapped up in some insulating material such as rubber, plastic, or cloth. An electric cord may look like a single wire, but it is really two wires. It leads the electricity into appliance and is called the lead wire. There's two. The other allows the electricity to return to where it came from and is called the return wire. These two wires are wrapped tightly together inside the cord's insulation. There must be other things in your house, too, if you are going to use electric current. There must be lamp sockets, switches, and wall sockets. There must also be fuse boxes and fuses and a meter. Some of these things are hidden inside the walls, too. All of these things together, the network of wires, the sockets and switches, the fuse boxes, and fuses and meter are called the electric wiring system. An electric meter. The wiring system starts where the wires into your house from the electric lines in the street. At this point, is a little machine called a meter. The meter measures how much electricity you use and how long you use it. The company who produces electricity at its powerhouse and sells it to you must know this. Otherwise, they will not be sure how much to charge you for your electric current. An electric meter is usually in the cellar of a house, but sometimes it is an iron box on the outside wall. Inside the meter is a sort of clock run by a tiny electric motor, but the meter doesn't have just one face like a regular clock. Instead, it has several little faces, or dials, with one hand for each face. The hands of an electric meter do not measure all the minutes and hours in either as the hands of a regular clock do. Instead, they measure only the minutes and hours you are using electricity and the number of kilowatts of electricity you use at each time. We say they measure kilowatt hours. As electric current passes through the meter in your house, it turns the motor in the meter. The motor turns some little wheels. The wheels operate the hands of the dials. Every bit of electricity you use is counted and registered by the hands of the meter. You can see the hands move when the lights are turned on in your house or when the electric refrigerator or some other electrical appliance is working. Once a month or once every 2 months, a man from the electric company comes in to read the meter. He looks at the little hands and marks down the number each one is pointing to. This tells him how much electricity has been used since the last time he saw that meter. The electricity company will then send a bill charging for that amount. After the electric current passes through the watchdog fuse. After the electric current passes through the meter, it is led by wires into an iron box called a fuse box. Fuses are little round plugs that look something like a bottom part of an electric light bulb, the part that screws into the light socket. The fuse box in your house may contain 1 fuse, 2 fuses, or even a dozen. The number of fuses depends on the size of your house and on how much electricity you use. Each fuse is part of a separate electric circuit. Perhaps your house has only one electric circuit that carries current to every room in the house. In that case, your fuse box will have only 1 fuse. Or perhaps your house has 2 electric current circuits. You may carry electricity to the kitchen and the dining room. The other may carry electricity to all the other rooms in the house. In that case, there would be 2 fuses in the fuse box. Large houses with many rooms, with many electric currents or circuits, also many fuses in the fuse box. The fuse isn't very big, but it is very important. This is why every wire in your house can safely carry only a certain amount of electric current. A thick wire can carry many amperes of current, but a thin wire can carry only a few. If a great deal of electric current forces its way through a thin wire, the wire will grow hot. When that happens, electricians say the wire is overloaded. It is carrying more electricity than it should. If the wires in your house become overloaded and grow hot, they may set the house on fire. But the fuse is sort of a watchdog. It keeps this from happening. Look through the little window in the top of a fuse. You will see a thin strip of metal. Turn the fuse over. On the bottom of it is a number pressed into the brass. The number tells how many amperes the fuse will carry. All the current that flows through each electric current must first, all the current that flows through each electric circuit must first flow through the thin strip of metal in its own special fuse. This metal strip is a sort of bridge over which the electricity must cross. Suppose the wires in your kitchen circuit are the proper size to carry as much as 15 amperes of electricity. Then the fuse that protects that circuit should also be able to carry 15 amperes. If the proper fuse is being used, there will be the number 15 pressed into the bottom of it. That number tells us we should never ask the wires in that circuit to carry more than 15 amperes that are indicated. Sometimes people forget this is a very important thing and they overload the wires in some circuit in their house. Mrs. Jones and the blown fuse. When wires are overloaded, something like this happens. Mrs. Jones is ironing. She has connected her electric iron with the current in her kitchen. An iron takes about 10 amperes of electricity. So soon, Mrs. Jones decides that she should like some coffee. She plugs in her electric coffee pot that takes about 5 amperes. The electric current in her circuit in her kitchen is a 15 ampere circuit. The wires are now carrying 15 amperes. But then Mrs. Jones decides she would like a piece of toast with her coffee. She plugs in the electric toaster, which takes another 10 amperes. Now she is making her kitchen circuit carry a load of 25 amperes. 10 amperes is more than it can safely manage. The wires of the circuit, hidden out of sight inside the kitchen walls, begin to grow warm. Soon they will become hot. They might become hot enough to start a fire inside the wall. But before that can happen, the little watchdog fuse goes into action. All the electricity Mrs. Jones is using, all the 25 amperes of current, is rushing through that little metal strip in the fuse. The strip gets warm too, but the strip is made of very soft metal, something like lead. When it gets warm, before the wires in the wall can get very hot, the metal melts and the strip breaks in two. Now the electricity can no longer go through the fuse. The little bridge over which it has been traveling is broken. Since the electricity can't pass through the fuse, it can't go through the kitchen circuit either. The kitchen circuit has become what we call a dead circuit. The electric iron in Miss Jones' kitchen cools off. The coffee pot won't make coffee, and the toaster won't make toast. Electricity is no longer flowing through them. Mrs. Jones says, "Oh dear, something's wrong." She is probably very angry, but she really should be thankful. If the fuse had not blown out, if the little metal strip had not melted and cut off the electric current, her house might have caught fire. Now Mrs. Jones telephones the electric company and asks the company to send an electrician to her house. When the electrician arrives, he sees at once what has happened. "You overloaded the kitchen circuit," he says. "I'll have to put in a new fuse." First, he pulls the plugs of the appliances in the kitchen so that they are all disconnected. Then he goes to the fuse box, unscrews the fuse of the kitchen circuit, and throws it away. It has done its job. It can never be used again. He screws another 15-ampere fuse into that socket. Now the electric current can again travel through the kitchen circuit in Mrs. Jones' house. Now her electric coffee pot will work again, and the toaster will make toast. But Mrs. Jones has learned that she must never try to use more than 15 amperes of electric current in her kitchen circuit at one time. If she does, the wires will be overloaded. Seeing how a fuse works, to make a fuse and see how it works, you will need your number 6 battery, 2 short pieces of bell wire, each about a foot long, a small piece of tin foil from a bar of chocolate, or a small plate or saucer. You can cut a thin strip of tin foil about 1 inch long and an 1/8 inch wide. Lay the tin foil on the plate or saucer. Scrape the insulation from both ends of the pieces of wire. Connect one piece to the center terminal of the battery. Connect the other end of the wire to the side terminal of the battery. Make sure the brass nuts of the battery terminals are well tightened over the wires. Place the free ends of the wires on the tin foil shown in the picture. The tin foil will get red hot and a piece of it will melt away. It melted because too much electricity tried to pass through it.